the 144,000 are not the only group of people that will be saved and will inherit the kingdom. The 144,000 are the first fruits. They're redeemed from the earth. They're delivered from the time of the evil one. 1 Thessalonians 5, the wrath of God isn't appointed unto them. Jeremiah 30, the time of Jacob's trouble. Jacob are working the harvest. They're working now, so they're saved out of their trouble and out of the time of the time of visitation. They're the former of all things, because iniquity gets turned from them first, and they actually heed the calling of the spirit of conviction, and they obey it. And what defines them is that they're Jacob his servant. They're the least of all men. Everyone hates them. They're hated for his name's sake. They declare the 10 Commandments, and they warn the church of its coming destruction. And they're hated by the whole world. So God manifests his name unto them, and then they have Jehovah's name on their foreheads, and they try to warn people. They try to tell people this so that they can become Jacob too. It's not an exclusive club. Jacob is trying to find other people, and whoever listens is also Jacob. They're also elect. It's not like, oh, we're the chosen people just because of who we are. No, God is convicting the whole world. Titus 2 tells you that he's given everyone a conscience, and he's convicting everyone to tell them what's right and wrong. And then it's going to sanctify them to become sober, which when you read 1 Thessalonians 5, it means he's going to make you a watchman. He's going to increase your burden for the souls of the people. And that's what defines Jacob. And because he is like this, he is not appointed to the wrath of God, because he is caught up to the throne. Before he's caught up to the throne, Satan is cast down. This is Revelation 12 and Isaiah 28. The parable of the fig tree tells you that this will happen in the springtime. Satan's going to be cast down over Babylon, over Ephraim, which is America, the leader of all nations, where the great whore and her many harlots dwell. It's the Catholic Church and her many Protestant Reformation harlots. He's going to be cast down. Meanwhile, the man-child, the 144,000, Jacob, the servants, the watchmen, whatever, the bride, New Jerusalem, are caught up to the throne. They're glorified, and they return with the Messiah, 2 Thessalonians 1, to judge fiery vengeance on those who obey not the gospel. Meaning, they're going to judge those who in tribulation, because this is the thing, this is the whole point. Jacob do this before tribulation. And then during tribulation, the people who heard Jacob's warning are going to go into tribulation and be given the opportunity to do what Jacob did before tribulation. They're going to have to do it in tribulation. If they choose not to, they're going to hell. But there's this special group of people that never got to hear the voice of the watchman. They never got to hear it. They are like held in ignorance, and they're going to be on the second Exodus. There's a second Exodus that is going to be 3.5 years, the length of tribulation, but these people aren't going to see the face of the devil. They're going to be protected. This is the woman that goes into the wilderness, Revelation 12 again. This is the whole story. She is preserved in the wilderness. It's not a time of... It's not going to be all fun and games, put it that way. It's a different kind of temptation and trial. She's going to be purged of her idol. She's going to cast away our Christmas tree and take the name of Baal out of her mouth. This is Hosea 2. She's going to put the crucifix away, realize that the church had lied about what graven images are and what the Messiah's name was. They're going to learn that in Great Tribulation, not tribulation, they're going to learn that on the Exodus. And it's going to begin in America, where Satan's cast down. Yah is going to preserve the woman and take her away from the face of Satan. She's going to make her way to Jerusalem, to the land. But what's ironic is that Jacob is looking for these ignorant, beautiful people who, if they heard the truth, they would repent. That's who Jacob's looking for. So when Jacob returns, Jacob's going to be judging fiery vengeance with the Messiah, executing the wrath of God essentially, but also preserving the woman. He's going to lead the woman. So it's a beautiful picture there. Something else I want to mention, that Romans 11 tells you that Israel was blind in part until the fullness of the Gentiles come in. So in 2 Kings 17, Israel were booted out of their inheritance for worshipping the Ashtaroth pole. That's a Christmas tree. So in Romans 11, Paul says, never do what Israel did, Christian church, to get divorced from Yah, because how much sorer is your punishment going to be if you do the same thing that they did? How much worse? How much more severe will it be for you? For the wild branches to do the same thing as the natural branches, basically. And we've done just that. So because Israel did that in 2 Kings 17, they were booted out of their land, they interbred into the Gentiles. They never repented. They were told if they would repent at the end of their punishment, they could come back. But if not, their punishment would be times by 7. This is Ezekiel 4 in Leviticus 26. I might do an updated video just kind of going through that prophecy in the timeline. Because it's so crucial. Because this is just biblical history, and that's how you know that Israel right now is in the Gentiles, right, springing up like the grass. Paul in Ephesians 2, the chapter that the Christians love, is quoting Isaiah 44, saying if you keep the covenants of promise, you will be no more Gentiles. You'll be grafted into the Commonwealth of Israel by keeping the covenants of promise, and therefore become New Jerusalem. He goes on to talk about being built upon the Messiah, who's the chief cornerstone, and you get to become part of the kingdom also. New Jerusalem is talking about. So because they never repented, their punishment was times by 7. And when you actually you add the numbers up, the curse would be lifted, the fullness of the Gentiles coming in would be around 2008. So before then, there was a spiritual curse over Israel. So many people before 2008 they will have been doing Christmas, but they didn't know. Information has increased now and the curse has been lifted, so people are without ignorance. But there was a time, as it says in Acts, that God would wink at ignorance. So all of these people in history they were God's remnant in their heart, but they didn't know the truth. They were doing Christmas, they were calling him Jesus. God has held them in ignorance. They're going to be resurrected and they're going to inherit the kingdom. They just didn't know. So that's the ignorance. So when people, like Christians now, they'll say to me and my brothers and sisters, are you saying that everyone who ever called him Jesus is going to hell? It's ironic because it's like, no, that's not what we're saying. They're held in ignorance. You don't have an excuse now. You're not in ignorance. You aren't ignorant. You've heard the truth and yet you've revealed your heart because you couldn't give a fuck that you've been lied to this whole time. And it's especially because you're then withholding others from entering the kingdom. And that's why you're not Jacob. Because Jacob repents and wants other people to repent. Not you've been half woken up by you've started reading the Bible, and because you don't care about other people, he's withdrawn from you, essentially.